طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Before we commence tonight's Q&A marathon, the book that we'll introduce to the viewers and the disciples, local and worldwide, in my opinion, is a very, very, very beautiful book. A very costly gem, and it's relatively rare, and I would say relatively hard to find, and Allah knows best. I haven't seen it in too many places, too many libraries, besides my own. I'm not saying it's impossible to find, but I don't think not too many people know about it or have come across it. Wallahu alam. The name of the book is called Akhlaqul Alim wal Muta'allim Inda Abi Bakr al-Ajurri. Okay. Says Akhlaq al-Alim wal-Muta'allim Inda Abi Bakr al-Ajurri, I'dad Abdul Rauf Yusuf Abdul Qadir Abdul Rahman. This is not an original work, but instead it is a service to a classic work. The book Akhlaq al-Ulama, from the characteristics of the learned of Abu Bakr al-Ajurri. Alhamdulillah, we've done many classes from this book. We don't have a full explanation of it yet, but we have read from it several times in several locations. The first of those locations, Wallahu Alam, was probably one of the earliest videos we uploaded when we were in Minneapolis. The first time we went to Minneapolis. From the characteristics of the learned. All right, the journey of knowledge. Also, we did a session on it when we were in the Brixton Mosque in London a couple of months back. And we read from it other times before as well. So Al-Ajurri rahimahullah, he has a very classic and important book called Akhlaqul Ulama, the characteristics of the learned people. And this author here, Abdul Rauf Yusuf Abdul Qadir Abdul Rahman, he came after him because Ajurri died over 1,000 years ago, and he analyzed his book and broke it down and sectioned it off and shed a great deal of light on many different aspects, all right? And he magnified and amplified many of the important concepts that were mentioned in the original book, all right? So he says the characteristics of those who are learning and those who are learned, according to Al-Ajurri. And this is one of the most important things for us to do in the modern age. Oftentimes the will doesn't need to be recreated. We don't need to make another will, but there are many variations to the will. And there are enhancements to the original will. And there are improvements of the will. And there is a ongoing and continuous perpetual process of refining the will. Making it stronger, making it lighter, making it more efficient, making it cheaper to make, making it. Wills for all different types of devices, all different types of vehicles, all different types of mobile things, wills for the snow, wills for the water, wills for whatever. So the turath, all right, the legacy, the inheritance that's been left behind by the ulama of the 2nd century, of the 3rd century, of the 5th century, etc. What we need to do now is break it down, analyze it, all right, summarize it, explain it, section it off, and translate it into the modern times. Instead of doing everything and making everything what? From scratch. Everyone understand this? So this is a very important concept. Tayyib. With that being said, reading from the, or briefly, this is not a book review, even though we can't get carried away. It's Darul Jil, it's printed in Beirut, 1991. And anyone who's a book collector, he knows that 1991 is not a long time ago. It's not super long time ago, maybe 30 years roughly. But for some reason or another, books from this period of early 90s to mid 90s are relatively hard to find. You'll have an easier chance finding books from the 80s or 70s sometimes, instead of books that were printed in the early 90s or the mid 90s, for one reason or another. For one reason or another. Wallahu alam. Al-Muhim, this is a very important book for the student of knowledge. All right. He talks about the reasons why he wrote this book, why he did this. Then he spoke on the life of Al-Ajurri rahimahullah. Then he talks about Al-Fasl al-Thalith, As-Simat al-Khuluqiyya lil-Ulama wal-Muta'allimin in Al-Ajurri. He says the moral characteristics of the learned people and the students to al-ajri. He talks about them dealing with Allah, them acting upon their knowledge, them worshiping Allah as hard as they can, them reflecting and pondering, them never praising themselves and putting themselves on a pedestal and claiming that they have some type of status with Allah above those of the other normal people, the commoners. Tarbiyatul wujdan ma'Allah, the people being connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he talks about al-ulama ghayrul amilin, the scholars or the learned people who don't act upon their knowledge. They have ilm, they have information, but they're not acting upon it. And he mentions qillatul ibadah, at-tahawun fil ibadah, not worshiping Allah. And this is very scary when you read this book and you start thinking about yourself. People being lazy and lethargic when it comes to worshiping Allah and taking it easy and light. Oh, it's just worship, it's just recommended, it's just. He says, al-itmi'nan 'inda dhikr al-maut. The second sign is people feeling comfortable when death is mentioned. They feel like it's a small, simple thing. When death is brought up, it's what? Doesn't shake them. Number 3, at-taswifu wa tamanni, procrastination and extended hope. Procrastination and extended hope. I'll do it tomorrow. We're going to live longer. Inshallah, we'll do it. Allah will bless us. Inshallah, brothers. Inshallah, inshallah. And the people, they just use inshallah and they abuse it. And they use it to procrastinate. Last but not least, he says, al-bukhlu wal-imsak is stinginess. Being a miser. People being stingy with ilm. You can't ask a question. You can't teach a class. Can't go here. Can't do a lecture. Can't. It's always an excuse never ever to what? To give and to pay back. Now, as we've explained when we were in Brixton, the importance of the book, especially in 2019, to show that everyone who has knowledge or is called a scholar or a student of knowledge doesn't mean that they're actually upon the way of the Salaf. Just because a person has ilm or information doesn't mean he's doing the right thing. And that proves and that shows us is that if a scholar does something wrong, just because he's a scholar doesn't mean that we can't say it's what? Wrong. Let alone when a scholar or a student of knowledge has been proven to be evil. It is not one thing happened here with one person, but 2 people, 3 people, 5 people. For years, the same thing has happened, and this scholar has been behind every single demise, downfall, and fitna. Now something's wrong now. You can't just say, oh, you can't say that about the sheikh. No. Actions are clearly proving that something's evil with this scholar or this student of knowledge, this da'i. He's a fatan, he's a fitna maker. And he's done nothing but cause corruption and split people up and separate people and destroy what the people have worked hard to build and establish. And the worst thing about it is, what has this sheikh or this student of knowledge, what have they done to substitute? What have you replaced it with? And we don't have to mention no names or no specific situations here in the United States, how certain things never ever were the same afterwards. Once this person was refuted and whatever claim was made against him, there was never been another one after him that had the same leadership skills. They had the same drive, they had the same ambition, who was strong. It's never been the same. So you remove one person and then you don't replace him with someone else. So it's very, very dangerous. Then he says, ثانيا الأهداف التربوية الخلقية في طلب العلم والعلماء والمتعلمين. What is the purpose of seeking knowledge when it comes to the ahdaf tarbawiyah, objectives of tarbiyah, right? And he mentions many, many other things, all extracted from the original work of Ajurri, but breaking it down and categorizing it. So just from reading a few points of the table of contents, you can clearly see what? Qimatul kitab, the value of the what? Of the book, and it's precious. Last but not least, on page 84, there's a few lines of poetry that he mentions. It says, كلما أدبني الدهر أراني نقص عقلي أو أراني ازددت علما زادني علمي بجهلي. The author, rahimahullah, or the author, the Jami', he says, كلما أدبني الدهر. He says, whenever time wants to teach me a lesson, كلما أدبني الدهر. Time wants to show me something and admonish me. It wants to discipline me. It says, Arani naqsa aqli. It shows how deficient my intellect is. Whenever it wants to teach me something, it shows how much I don't what? How much I don't know. And how backwards I think. And how short-sighted I really am. He says, Oh, Arani is dead to ilman. زادني علمي بجهلي. Or when time wants to show me that I have learnt more and I've increased in knowledge, there's done nothing but show how ignorant I previously was. It's done nothing but show me how what? How ignorant I previously was. So whenever it wants to teach me a lesson, it shows me how much I don't know. And whenever it shows me that I have increased and notched up and leveled up, it shows me what I what previously? Didn't know. Obviously that's profound words for ulil albab, inshallah. طيب. Bismillah.
AD from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. May Allah bless you. What are the virtues of Rajab? What should one do to take fully advantage of it and accumulate ajr?
طيب. Repeat the question one more time, please.
AD from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. May Allah bless you. What are the virtues of Rajab? What should one do to take fully advantage of it and accumulate ajr?
طيب. With regards to Rajab, the month of Rajab, what are the virtues of Rajab and what should we do to take advantage of them? You implement what's authentic. You practice what is authentically established in the Sunnah. And that which is not authentically established, even if it's popular or famous, or if it's mentioned in a hadith, then there's nothing special or extra for Rajab. Unless it's based off of an authentic narration that you yourself have discovered, or you determined to be authentic, or you're dependent upon a scholar who you trust and you follow. And if that's not the case, then Rajab is like any other month. Rajab is like any other month. Unless we have authentic dalil stating fast at night, pray, fast in the daytime, staying at nighttime, so on and so forth. So that's my advice, is to stick with the authentic sunnah. And there's more than enough in the authentic sunnah to keep you busy in Rajab and outside of what? Rajab. Wallahu alam. That's the issue among the ulama of Islam, the ahadith al-warida, with regards to the virtue of Rajab. And some of the ulama, they wrote books on it. They wrote books on the hadiths about Rajab. Are they authentic or not? They wrote books on this. Wallahu alam.
MA from New Haven, Connecticut. Which is better, to give sadaqah or a gift, according to the Quran and Sunnah?
That was up from, yeah.
MS from UK, London. From London, UK. What is the asl of a Muslim in terms of aqidah?
Questions from London. What's the asl of a Muslim in terms of an aqidah? Once more, we cannot just separate and pick things. Aqidah, Islam, minhaj, dawah, etc. It's all one system. It's all one system. A flaw here proves that there's a flaw what? Somewhere else. So, with regards to the asl of a Muslim in general, not just aqidah, or should we take knowledge from them? Is the asl of a Muslim al-adala, that he's just, he's equitable? Or is the asl of a Muslim ignorance and oppression, and that he's evil and sinful? The ulama of Islam, they have two main views. But in actuality or reality, one may say they don't really differ on the issue. Somebody could possibly say that. One view is that إن الأصل في الإنسان, the default of a person is that he's just and pious until proven otherwise. You meet a Muslim brother, Assalamu alaikum brother, come over my house, eat my food, come with me, until he proves otherwise. And he disqualifies himself by drinking alcohol or smoking drugs or being a thief or so on and so forth. So some of the ulama, they say that the asl of man is adala, of the Muslim. It's good until proven to be bad. And others, they may say no, the asl of a person, of a Muslim, is ignorance. You don't know what he is upon or who he is until it's proven for him to be upon good. Proven to be upon righteousness and piety. Okay, when it comes to taking knowledge from someone, a narrator of hadith, a sheikh of hadith, or just any Muslim. But in actuality, one may say that just because Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا, and that man is ignorant and oppressive, that doesn't mean every single man, and it doesn't mean that's the origin of a Muslim. Because Allah talks about man being greedy and man being stingy. That's the general description of the human. That doesn't mean that that's the asl of every Muslim. Everyone understand this? Now, the last thing I want to say with the amount of time that we have, because we don't want to spend too much time on this question, is many people, and I want to say what I feel, I may be mistaken in this, but I want to say what I feel. Many people, they've made up principles to protect their distorted, warped understanding of the way of the Salaf. They've made up things to bring in what they want and to push out what they want. A perfect example of this is the concept of one of the two sides of extremism, either of the two, or one of the two sides. Al-muwazanat. Al-muwazana bayn al-hasanat wa sayyi'at. Those who say, this person made a mistake, he's wrong, but he has so many good deeds that he's done. So many good books that he's written, so don't worry about those mistakes. Just take the good. All right? And then there are those who say that a scholar did make a mistake or did say something wrong, and he served the deen for 30 years, 20 years, so many years. Just ignore all of that good service and only focus on his mistake and his error. Many people, they've made these principles up to protect their distorted concept of what da'wah is supposed to be. Here we have a brother, we know he's virtuous, he's upon the ilm and sunnah, he served the deen. And we just want to discard everything and throw him out because of an error, a ghalta or ghaltatain. So the people, they say that you can't do that, you can't refute him, you can't put out his mistake because of the good deeds. And then the other extremists, they say what? It means nothing. You can't say, oh, he has good deeds or he's done good things. You can't say that. So people, oftentimes they make up principles to protect their own understanding. So the asl of a person is that he's evil and he's an innovator. That's the asl. In other words, we have the ability to monopolize the ring of da'wah. Who's this brother? Who's this teacher from the same University of Medina? This brother, he graduated, he studied. Don't take from him. Don't benefit from him until we talk to him, until you call us, until we confirm and verify. What do you think about Sheikh Fulan? And what's your position on Brother Fulan? And is he an innovator? And he gets the answers no, they say don't take from him. And they say that the asl of him is what? Wrong until proven good. Is that proper? So that's what I would say. The Muslim should be treated as a Muslim until he himself or she herself disqualifies from that good treatment of a Muslim. Every Muslim should be treated kindly and respected until it's proven what? Otherwise. And if you have someone who has knowledge in formal education, wallahu alam, one may say the asl is that you can benefit from that person and take from them until proven otherwise. As far as someone who hasn't been formally educated, as far as someone who doesn't have a reputable background of knowledge, then that's a different what? Different story. But it's hypothetical. Someone who graduated from the Islamic University of Medina, how far off is he going to be? How wacky is he going to be? Is he on your tightrope interpretation? Different story. Does he go to this sheikh's house in Medina and sit on his sofa? That's a what? It's a different story. Was he with these brothers from the UK, from Birmingham, and he was with them and that's a different what? Different story. But what does this aqeedah want to be like if he graduated from the College of Hadith? Honestly, how far-fetched is he going to be? So people play games and they make up these principles, and the principles that are established and known by the old ulama, they distort and they warp them to suit their own agenda. Wallahu a'lam.
OS from Columbia, Missouri. May Allah bless you, Sheikh. What is the ruling on exaggerated speech? Cats and dogs, that thing weighed a ton, etc.
Question, what is your speech on exaggerated speech? It's raining cats and dogs, driving like a bat out of hell, this thing weighs a ton, I'll be there in 1 second, right? Things like this, right? Tayyib. And other lines of poetry as well. What some of the poets have what? Have made references towards. At the end of the day, I don't think that's exaggerated speech. I think that's just speech. Whether you call it exaggerated or not. The same thing exists in Arabic. The same thing exists what? In Arabic. There are many, many, many lines of poetry in which there's mubalagha or tajawuz in kalam. So if you apply it in Arabic, in English, it's also going to apply in what? In Arabic. Now some of the ulama of Islam, they say about the authentic hadith in which the Prophet said about the Bedouin man, aflaha wa abi in sadaq. Okay, man ja'a. The man came and he asked about the pillars of Islam, about salah, about zakat, etc. And he says, hal alayya ghayruha? Do I have to do other? Do I have to do other? Do I have to do other? And the Prophet says, la illa an tatawwa. No, unless you want to do extra. The man turned away. The Prophet is quoted to have said, aflaha wa abi in sadaqah. I swear by my father, he'll be successful if he sticks to that. If he only does the obligatory acts, he'll be what? Okay. And the ulama, they differ over this hadith. How could the Prophet swear by his father? And in which he tells the people, la tahlifu bi abaikum, don't swear by your fathers. It's problematic. And one of the answers is that the Prophet ﷺ, he said that statement and he didn't mean it. Exaggerated speech. But he didn't actually what? Mean to swear by his father with the aqeedah of swearing by other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or the hadith in which it says, thakilatka ummuka. May your mother be bereft of you. That's making dua for what? for death. May your mother be bereft of you, meaning may you die. And may your mother suffer and cry because of your loss. Did the Prophet ﷺ mean that? Did the Sahaba mean that? But it's called what? If that's what you call expression or exaggerated speech. So if it's demonic in English, which many people, they have this view, everything in English is bad, such as poetry. You can't quote a rapper. That's jahiliyyah. Huh? Right, Harun? You can't say a line of urban poetry. You can't say that. But you can quote a polytheist idol worshiper who died in Jahiliyyah. You can quote him. Was he upon guidance? The rapper may be Muslim. And this was an idol worshiper. But his statement is a statement of what? Truth, of wisdom. And the culture is represented by poets. Or the poets are the ones who do what? Express the culture, as you said. He was talking about this section of Queens, but that was really happening what? In another section. But where are the voices of that other section? So the rapper from another section of Queen, he did what? He represented it. Did you not say this or not? He represented what was going on through his what? Through his poetry. So many people, they say poetry in English is bad. Saying, oh, geez, or this or that, you can't say that, you can't say that. But what about in what? Arabic. What about the hadiths in which we have statements like this, may your mother be bereft of you? Then what? They didn't mean that. That's not what they intended. So the ulama of Islam, they have explained this issue, is that there are certain statements that people make in which they do not what? Intend. And sometimes it is what? Okay. So if it's bad in English, it's going to be bad what? And if it's okay in Arabic, it's going to be what? As long as it's in that context. So wow, this is heavy. This weighs a ton. No one is going to believe in the right mind that the thing weighs a what? A ton. I'll be there in 1 second. Just wait a second, Akhi. Give me 1 minute. And you know that I'm going to go up the steps and be at least what?
15.
5 minutes, inshallah. Next question.
From the
Next question.
If the Prophet ﷺ forbade something, is it haram to do it?
Questions from Detroit?
Yes.
If the Prophet ﷺ forbids something, is it haram to do it? Until proven otherwise, yes. When the Prophet forbids us from something, then we have to stay away from it. It is haram until proven only to be makruh. And it has to be proven to be makruh through another text, another proof, another evidence. Wallahu alam.
TM from Ottawa, Canada. What is the ruling on getting headphones?
Getting what?
Headphones. Earphones.
Earphones?
Yeah, what is the ruling on getting earphones?
Any questions from where?
Ottawa.
Getting earphones? I don't know of any prohibition on having earphones, unless it's something which is clearly harmful to your health. Unless it's clearly harmful to your health. And many people, they argue with regards to Bluetooth. They say Bluetooth causes cancer. If that's proven factually, then that's one thing. Wallahu alam.
F. Ali from the London, UK. What's your thoughts on the Saudi Crown Prince? Can we make takfeer on him?
Questions from the UK. What are your thoughts on the Saudi Crown Prince? Can we make takfeer upon him? As we say with regards to the Saudi Crown Prince or anyone, this scholar or this da'i, what's your opinion on fulan and fulan? Those who are upon the Quran and the Sunnah and they obey Allah and His Messenger, we love them. And we show our loyalty to them. And we cooperate with them upon birr and taqwa. Those who are not upon the Quran and Sunnah and they are not obeying Allah and His Messenger, we hate them. And we disassociate ourselves from them and we do not necessarily join with them unless it's something which is a benefit for everybody. Unless it's a benefit for everyone. So whether it's the Saudi Crown Prince or anyone, what people do is known, it is seen, and it's just that simple. It's just what?
That's simple.
It's just that simple. Wallahu alam.
H.A. from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. May Allah bless you in your efforts.
As far as can we make takfir on him, then the concept of takfir is a very long issue. And we've mentioned in many classes before, and I don't think there's been someone who's actually said it the way I've said it, wallahu alam, about the confusion of takfir. Those who are right wing and those who are left wing. Everyone's a kafir, anyone's a kafir, a ruler, a person, a sinner, whatever. And then those who say no one's a kafir, there's no takfir. You can't say he's a kafir. He's saying that the Quran is distorted. He's saying the Quran is unjust to women. He says this, he does this. He's not a kafir. Ahlul Sunnah, we don't make takfir. We have right wing, we have what? Left wing. Okay? As I've said many times before, if you want to know the correct stance with regards to a takfir, whether it's of the rulers or a ruler or a sinner or this or that, follow the legacy of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah ta'ala. What was he upon and what did he do? Did he make takfeer on people? Did his students and grandsons and disciples make takfeer on people or not? And why did they make takfeer? Did they make takfeer because of sin or because people who they thought and they believed were making shirk and kufr akbar? Whether it was worshiping an idol, making tawaf around a tree, ruling by other than what Allah has sent down, using the kuffar's help to kill Muslims or whatever. It's just that simple. And that's why Shaykh Abdurrahman Hassan rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote the book Al-Kalimat al-Nafi'ah fi al-Mukaffirat al-Waqi'ah. He wrote a book refuting the ignorant scholars of Arabia, of Turkey, of Egypt, wherever they were, saying that there's no takfir to be made. And you can't say that this Muslim is no longer a Muslim. He refuted that claim with proofs from Quran and Sunnah, and most importantly with the ijma'. Every single madhab has bab al-murtad, ahkam al-murtad, rulings of an apostate, with regards to marriage, with regards to divorce, with regards to one's wealth. What happens when a Muslim no longer is a Muslim? So to say that there's no takfir whatsoever is wrong. And to make takfir on a Muslim because he drinks alcohol or beats women or sleeps with women, that's also wrong. But to make takfir upon anyone because their creed is an act of apostasy, their statement is an act of apostasy, their action is something which necessitates them being non-Muslims, that is from the way of what? Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, from the Salaf al-Salih. And if you don't say that, you're not following their way. You're not following Ibn Abdul Wahhab, you're not following Ibn Taymiyyah, you're not following Ahmed, you're not following Kitab and Sunnah. Wallahu a'lam.
H.A. from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. May Allah accept your efforts in reviving the Sunnah. Ameen. In a Q&A video, you mentioned that instead of taking notes during class, we should listen. And after the class, try to recall what the teacher said in our minds. Do you suggest we repeat the lesson verbally to ourselves or just try to recall it mentally? Jazakallah khair.
Wa yakum. With regards to not taking notes in class, sitting down, paying attention and looking. And then afterwards, regurgitating the information to yourself. Should we speak to ourselves or just recall on it by memory, etc.? By memory. And not only is it a benefit of you paying attention and not taking notes in the class, some classes you do take notes, as we said. And that's only one madhab. That's only one school of thought. Some teachers hold the view that you should take notes. We did say that. But the madhab that says that you shouldn't take notes, just watch and listen and focus. Not only is it a benefit of that, of you paying attention and giving it respect and not being a distraction, but it also strengthens your mind. Because you go home, you sit down in a comfortable chair, and you start meditating, quote unquote. Close your eyes and recall everything that the teacher said. It's going to be difficult in the beginning. And you may get stuck in the beginning. You may not get it, but if you keep doing it, you'll be shocked at how strong your memory actually can be. And then you say, okay, I get it, the beginning, and that's when he picked up the tea and he said this, and then it does what? It starts coming. And the memory is like muscles. It has to be what? Developed. You have to develop it. You have to strengthen it. And one of the harms of, or not harms, one of the weaknesses of just working out with calisthenics, as a brother told me in the gym, is that it's capped. There's a limit to it. Whereas weight, iron, you do what? You can add to it. So the same applies to one's mind. If you cap your mind, it will never grow. By always taking notes and recording it. But force yourself to do what? Get it. Wallahu a'lam.
Z Latin from Tuzla, Bosnia. Sheikh, could you describe prayer when sitting and laying down at home or in Jama'ah?
Question comes from Bosnia. Can you describe prayer with regards to sitting or laying down when a person is at home? I suppose that the question is talking about in the state of sickness or in the state of traveling or, unfortunately, but it is a reality, in the state of a Muslim being tortured. A Muslim being in captivity, in which there are many Muslims as we speak who are in captivity and being tortured. May Allah release them and help them. Regardless whether they have done wrong or not, they're still what? Muslims. And the people who have captured them and imprisoned them and are torturing them are not Muslims. And they are not dealing with those Muslims who may be astray or have done wrong according to the what? The Sharia. Everyone understand that? Just because a Muslim does wrong doesn't mean that he's just now violated as a human being. Let alone as a what? A Muslim. Are they giving him a quick, easy, painless death? Or are they torturing him psychologically? Molesting him and doing all types of things to his mind and his body. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. and the rest of the world, and we just sit back and drink our tea and say nothing. While these Muslims are being tortured and kept in all types of inhumane conditions, and we just what? Say, oh, well, that's what they get. They shouldn't have done this or they shouldn't have said that. Until what happens to your son or your brother or your father. All right? May Allah help us all. So with regards to making salah sitting down or laying down, whether you're sick, whether you're traveling, whether you're in prison, etc., then the prayer of the one who's sick is based off of ease and facilitation. It's based off of ease and facilitation. It is not based off of stringent, rigid rules, like one who's standing. So if you can pray with your legs crossed like this, then you do that. If you wish to sit like you're in what? Jilsa, then you do that. If you have to sit with your legs straight out facing the Qibla or your knee, however you got to do it, sitting down, then you what? You do it. What's the best way to sit? Some of the ulama of Islam say, some of them say that it is a tarabbu', as we would say in our colloquial or common terms, Indian style. Indian style, right? Cross-legged or four-legged, we say Indian style. And FYI, as a fa'idah, if you study about the Lenape Indians or the Delaware Indians, you'll find some very interesting information about where the term Indian style comes from. And if they did or didn't sit like this and why. Very, very, very interesting scientific fact with regards to sitting what? Indian style. Al-Muhim. Some of the ulama say that this is best. And others, they say rather Jilsa is best. But they don't agree that they're all what? They don't disagree that they're all what? Permissible based off of the need and the facilitation and ease of the what? Of the ill person. All right? That's with regards to sitting down. And the same applies to lying down. If you can face the Qibla, if you can sit on your, lay on your right side, that's one thing. If you can't, then on your back with your feet towards the Qibla. Whatever you have the ability what? To do. That's with regards to the ill Muslim. And being ill doesn't mean that you're about to die, but it means it causes you pain to stand up or pain to sit up. Even if you can bear it, but it's what? It's painful. And that's not what the Prophet ﷺ meant when he said to Imran ibn Hussein, فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ, if you can't. He didn't mean if it's impossible, but he meant if you can't do it unless you have a great deal of what? Hardship and pain. Then do it sitting, then do it lying, etc. All right? So on the sitting down, lying down for someone who's sick and ill, do what's the easiest. What's the best way? Perhaps one may say is sitting what? Like this, quote unquote. One may say that, and others may say it's what? The sitting of what? Of jilsa, like you're in tashahhud. Everyone understand this? As far as if you're traveling, then it's a bit different. Oftentimes you're sitting on a plane or a seat on a train or something. You don't have the ability to cross your legs, and your feet will be on the floor. So you neither have the jilsa position or the Indian style position. Everyone understand this? So you're going to do it the best way that you what? That you can. And obviously the fiqh of the time, combining the salah, standing up, getting your bags in the airport security holding you up, etc. When will Asr go out? Should I make it on a plane or should I wait until I land? You get off of the train, you get off the plane, you may get held up. It may be a traffic jam, and you may not have the ability to use the bathroom, and you may miss what? Salah. So sometimes it's best just to make the prayer sitting down and combine it, what? Sitting down while you're traveling. Everyone understand this? Everyone clear on this or not? As far as someone who's in jail, or someone who's being tortured or something like this, then of course, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah the best way you know how, even if you don't have wudu. You can't make tayammum. And the correct view, and Allah knows best from among the ulama of Islam, is that in the faqid al-tahurain, the mas'ala is called faqid al-tahurain. He who has neither of the two types of purification makes the salah hasab halihi, according to his condition, and he does not have to make the prayer up. He doesn't have to make up the prayer. And the same applies to sitting down, not facing the Qibla, in times of need and necessity. That's obviously in what? In brief. Wallahu alam.
Hemar from Wiltshire, UK. Are there science miracles within the Quran? Does it speak on the Big Bang?
Tayyib. Question is from Wiltshire. Are there scientific miracles in the Quran? Does the Quran speak on the Big Bang theory? It depends on what you mean by a miracle. And the word miracle in itself is sometimes problematic and sometimes vague. But if you mean proof for certain scientific discoveries and advancements, then of course the Quran is full of this. The clouds, the mountains, the sea, the embryo, blood, oxygen, thin air, Allah, He says, whoever Allah wants to guide, يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Whoever Allah wants to guide, He expands his breast for Islam. وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَّعَدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Allah says, and whoever Allah wants to misguide, He makes his breast what? ضَيِّق, constricted, tight, as if he was what? And the higher you elevate, the more oxygen you what? Need. That's why you wear a Bane mask in the gym. And that's why pilots have what? Masks to fly jets. And boxers who train for boxing, they have a big match. They go to the mountains with thin air to make them what? Work harder. The higher you elevate, the thinner what? The air is. This wasn't, this wasn't known back then about the concept of elevation in the sea level. The Quran clearly what? Affirms that. And in many, many, many other ayats in which Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us about the creation, the making, and things that take place that scientists and physicists and all of these type of thinkers and intellectual people have just begun to what? Discover and theorize. So if that's what you mean, then of course. Then what? Of course. If you mean that the Quran is a book of science, and that's the only way of giving dawah is through a scientific miracle, and a person will only accept Islam if it's scientific proof that God exists through science, then the Quran is not that. Dawah can be given without science. A dhikr, admonishment can be given to someone without what? Science. One can hear something and learn something from the Quran, have nothing to do with what? Science. And many people, and I'm sorry for taking long in the answer, but many people, they restrict themselves. And they think that the whole entire world is all scientists or physicists. Don't you understand that scientists and physicists and these types of people, they're only a what? A tiny percentage of humans. So that is not the only rationale of dawah. Now, if you just want scientists in your circle and in your masjid to give money and donate, then of course, different story. Or you're trying to appease the kuffar, that's a different story. Or you're trying to reverse the backwardness of your formerly colonized country by proving that we have science too, then that's a different story. But there are many people who are drawn to Islam through emotions. There are many people who are drawn to Islam through language, eloquence, linguists. Everyone understand this? Poets who know nothing about science will say, whoa, say that again? What Najmi, whoa, what type of poetry is that? And it makes sense, and it's all broken down in the science. It has to be from a higher source, and they'll accept Islam. And there are people who may accept Islam because they are brave and tough men. And they read the verses in the Quran about jihad fi sabilillah, and the martyrs, and what happens, and the concept, they'll accept Islam. So Islam is not just based off of people learning about what? Science. The bottom line is we cannot continue to apologize and kiss the feet of non-Muslims and beg them to accept our deen. We offer it to you, the door is open, but we're not begging you to be a Muslim just because you're a scientist. Everyone understand this? Very, 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 very important. And the hypocrisy of the people today is that if it wasn't for warriors, where would scientists be? Who protects the scientists? Who keeps them safe? Who allows the scientists to work for 10 and 20 years to figure it out, except for the what? The military. And who provides for the military? Who allows them to fight, except for the what? Politicians. Who supports the politicians, except for the what? The bread makers and the glass makers and the wine makers. It's a system of life. So it's impossible for the Quran to just only speak to what? Scientists. That's foolishness. And many people are there upon this. They think that it's just all scientific miracles in the Quran. That's wrong. So if that's what you mean, then that's not the case. All right? Everybody clear on this point? No. And the only reason why I went on because it's very what? It's very important. Please repeat the second part of the question.
Big Bang.
The Big Bang Theory. Is the Big Bang Theory supported in the Quran? Some people say it is. Some people say that it is. And they use different verses from the Quran to prove this. When Allah Azza wa Jalla says, have they not seen that the heavens and the earth was a what? كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما. That there was a ratq. And we fataqnahuma, we split them up. And from water we've made all living things. Should they not believe, Allah says. So some of the people of Islam, they say that this proves that the heavens and the earth, or the samad, it was what? Together. And the fatq was made, it was separate. Everyone understand this? Some people, they have this view. And others say no. Al-Muhim, that's not my field of expertise. The bottom line is, what do you mean by Big Bang Theory? That the things created themselves? Or Allah created things and allowed the Big Bang to take place? And the same applies to evolution. What do you mean by evolution? That man who thinks and talks and walks came from a small worm-like fish in the sea? Is that what you mean? Microevolution or macroevolution? What do you mean by evolution? Everyone understand this? Man created himself, he came from a monkey and an ape? Or do you mean something else? The law created man and taught him, and he went through different stages. And he created the animals, and they went through different stages. What do you mean by evolution? And what do you mean by what? The Big Bang Theory. So there are certain things which are clearly rejected, and there are other things which are possible, or confirmed, let alone the third things which are what? Possible. It depends on what you mean. Huh? Wallahu alam.
N.A. from Brooklyn, New York. Does oral sex without climax require ghusl?
Question from Brooklyn. Does oral sex without ghusl require ghusl? Does oral sex without climax require ghusl? No, it doesn't. The only thing which requires ghusl without climax is penetration, vaginal or anal. Wallahu alam.
NRC from Newcastle, UK. What is the ruling of women speaking in front of men in Islamic conferences and female pictures of Islamic events, leaflets?
Question with regards to women speaking in front of men at Islamic conferences, leaflets, pictures, flyers, etc. How much fitna do we go through because of this? To this day. How many years ago was that conference? People were still what? Still burning like candles to this day. But Allah knows best what will people say about this Dawah conference if they were the ones invited. You understand? Only Allah what? Knows what would their beef be if they were the ones that were what? Requested to speak. Al-Muhim, let's ask ourselves the question, like we said the other night about taking wives to the movie or taking your wife to, you may take your wives. You may have 3 wives, you take them what? All to the cinema, if they can get along like that. You get the popcorn, you get the goober, and you get the what? Jolly Ranchers, huh? You get the soda, I want butter my popcorn, and they all sitting tight. You take your wife to the cinema, or your wives to the cinema. Or a brother likes to go to the what? The basketball game, and their cheerleaders, etc., right? Who is going to the cinema and the movies? And who's going to speak on this flyer? The sister that wears niqab and gloves? The sister that's shy and bashful, and she's in her house learning, teaching a circle of sisters? Or a sister that already doesn't wear niqab, and she works at a university, and she interacts with men? Alhamdulillah, she's wearing hijab. Because she could be like 9 other women which are wearing what? Tight mini skirts and high heel shoes. Clicking and clacking up and down the hallway with an ounce of perfume on. In the workplace. Let's keep it real now. But due to the fact that she's actually wearing a what? Khimar. And her name isn't an American or English or British name, but it's a Middle Eastern name. People know that she's Arab and she's from overseas, or Pakistani name, or whatever the case may be. She's not afraid of her identity. And she wears a khimar, let alone she has on an overgarment, something loose, which isn't the best. But the fact is, it isn't the cool thing to be a Muslim in the professional workplace nowadays. Can we agree on this? No. It's not the cool thing. People are getting picked out and victimized because of their what? Their name. Sikhs get stabbed in New York City. Sikhs, mushriks, because the cab, the one in the back seat thinks that he's a what? He's an Arab or Muslim. He has a turban and a beard. After 9/11, there were several incidents of Sikhs being stabbed and beat up because the ignorant non-Muslims thought that they were what? Muslims. So the fact is that you have on a khimar, working in a college, at a university, at a doctor's office, you have on a loose dress, you identify yourself with Islam, that has to what? Mean something. Because they could just be what? Like everyone else with the tight short clothes on and the makeup and the perfume. But the fact that she is trying to cover up and identify herself as a Muslim. So give them some credit. That's first and foremost. Secondly is, she's going to a conference to speak to who? Does she cover her face outside of the conference? No, she doesn't. So it makes no difference whether her face is on a flyer or whether she's walking down the street, because you can see her what? Her face. Let alone the fact that she may be of the opinion that the face doesn't have to be covered. And it's permissible to look at the opposite sex as long as it's not based off of lust. So what are you saying? A sister who doesn't believe that, she's wearing niqab and she takes off her face at a conference, that's a different what? Different story. So who is the Muslim? Who is the speaker? The person who takes his wife to the movies, to the cinema, what type of brother is he? A hardcore student of knowledge studying day and night? Or someone who's this and that? I have to go to the football game to relieve some steam and have some recreation with my kids. Not saying that's haram, because I never said that. It's not the same as someone who's just in the library all day, all night. I don't want to go outside and get nothing to eat. It's a different type of person. So I think that people, they broad brush things and they make everything black and white. These are Muslims that are trying to do some type of good. There are brothers speaking, and there's a sister who's speaking there. She doesn't wear niqab, and she speaks. She gives classes to the sisters. That's one thing. Or even if she does speak to men, but you go to college. At work, when you check in, who's at the desk? You know what I mean? Tracy. Let's stop the fakeness. You understand what I'm saying to you? Your wife is driving, she has a driver's license, she gets pulled over by the state trooper, she has to show him her what? Let's stop the fakeness. I can't show you my face. That's not what you're going to say to the state trooper. You're going to do what? License and registration, please. I stopped you because you were doing such and such amount of speed, or your brake light isn't working. Well, heck of that. People, they show their faces, they interact with the opposite sex when they want to. But when they don't want to, it's haram, you can't do it. It can't be a compromise. It's hypocrisy. So let's keep it real and let's be honest. All right? So therefore, with that being said, if it's a sister that never interacts with men and she's going to be interacting with men in a conference, that's one thing. A sister who's already in the workplace speaking, that's what? Different story. And I'll never ever forget the time when I was in the college. I forget the name of the college. I think it was in the city, or maybe it was Brooklyn. I'm not sure. A couple years ago, about 3 years ago. The brother asked the question after I gave a talk to the students. He says, Mufti, is it permissible for a sister to give an Islamic talk to the MSA? Can she be the head of the MSA, so on and so on and so forth? Because, brothers are saying that they can't do this. It's haram. It's not the way of the Salaf for a woman to speak. And outside of the classroom, there was the teacher and the professor, a white, non-Muslim woman, Allah Alam what she was wearing, I'm not going to mention it on the live stream, waiting to come in the classroom and teach the class to the Muslims. So she comes in, how is she dressed? What is she wearing? And you sit there and you watch her and you take your notes. But Sister Maryam or Fatima with her kimar and her tunic top and her loose dress, that's not a full abaya, she gives a talk, a 5-minute talk. That's haram. But to stare at the non-Muslim woman for an hour is what? What's that, Yani? What's the games that the people are what? Playing. Don't go to the college if that's your view with regards to free mixing. Why are you even there? Stay in your house. No one told you to come and study in college. So I think that the people, they have to get out of this bubble of fakeness and trying to be something that they're not willing to sacrifice to be. Wallahu alam. I've said more than enough on the topic.
AK from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Can you expand on the situation of Sheikh Mohammed bin Hadi?
Questions from where?
London, UK.
Questions from London, UK. Can you expand on the situation of Sheikh Mohammed bin Hadi? Yes and no, no and yes. I can expand and tell you things that I know and things that I feel or my opinion. Semester, the Sunnah of Imam Abu Dawood, rahimahullah, and the Madda of Kutub al-Sunnah. Alhamdulillah, I benefited tremendously from that class. And before that class and after that class, I visited the Sheikh in his masjid and I've studied with him. Walhamdulillah. And like we say about all our teachers from Medina, those who are sheikhs, professors, those who are known, those who aren't known, we benefited from all of them. And we make dua for them, for Allah to reward them, and to bless them, and to guide them, and keep them guided. That doesn't mean that we agree with everything they say and do. And it doesn't mean that we feel that everything that they say and do is right and correct. Doesn't mean that, but they are our what? Our teachers, all right? With that being said. So Sheikh Mohammed bin Hadi, I wasn't super close with him. I'm not going to sit there in front like, he's going to say, oh, for such and such, we used to eat together. But I had a basic personal relationship with him. I've studied with him. I asked him questions and I visited him and I learned from him like the other mashayikh of Medina. So that's first and foremost. So for me to sit and badmouth him and talk about him and kick him when he's down and throw him under the bus is something that I refrain from doing. Whether I agree with him or what? No. Agree with him not. Whether I'm following all of his teachings or not. Whether I feel that there's something else that's better or more correct or what? Or not. Everyone understand this? There's a thing in Islam called loyalty. No matter what. So that's first and foremost with regards to Sheikh Mohammed bin Hadi. Secondly is, our policy, we don't get into names of people, of da'is, people that ask these questions of sheikhs. But I want to make an exception here tonight. I want to make an exception. Point number 3 is, I feel that the situation of Muhammad bin Hadi, of what they're saying about him, against him for him, I feel that it is utterly appalling. Utterly appalling. And I think it's one of the worst and nastiest acts of nifaq that I have seen. For the people to say he's speaking about people without knowledge. He's attacking clear Salafis. He's talking about people who have doctor's degrees and master's degrees. I need not mention any names, people who said this. And that is the same exact thing that what? You have done for 25 years. You didn't speak about nobody unless they had a degree. And you're the same lying hypocrite who said degrees don't mean anything. It doesn't matter if he has a degree. But now when it's Muhammad bin Hadi saying it, is what? They have Shahada, Magister, and Doctoral, you can't say that. What type of hypocrisy is this? He's talking about people without proof. SubhanAllah. What do we say? Ain't that the pot calling the what? The kettle black. Talking about people without knowledge. How many people have you talked about without what? Knowledge. How many accusations have you made, assumptions have you made about people over years without correct what? Knowledge. And the proof of that is when someone defends themselves and writes a book or gives a lecture and plays the recordings and explains everything, what do? They keep silent and they talk about something else. Oh, well, he did this then. But the lies that you made about the person or the inaccuracy, I think he said, or brothers have told me, what did he say? Brothers have, and they've told me, speaking without what? Knowledge. So Muhammad bin Hadi now, he's speaking without knowledge. So call him a name, he's an innovator, don't take from him. But that's the same thing that you have been doing for 30 years. And now it's a sin. So that's not okay. And this has nothing to do with me defending Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi or attacking him, agreeing with him or disagreeing with him. We're talking about the principle. Everyone understand this? So I feel that the people are extremely hypocritical. They take what they want. They leave off what they want. And for one reason or another, when someone falls out of good favor with a sheikh or a scholar or person, they sacrifice him. They sacrifice him, They make him the captured fitat, the sacrificial captured fitat, sacrificial lamb, and they offer him to whoever they what? Whoever they offer to. Wallahu alam. We're not with that. Not Muhammad bin Hadi or any other scholar. Degrading him, disrespecting him, and refuting him for something that we ourselves are what? Guilty of doing for 30 years straight. That's not okay. That's not what? That's not okay. So that's what I would say with regards to Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi. And last but not least, like we said, by any scholar or any person, if you can benefit from them, you benefit from them. And if it's something that you feel is wrong or incorrect they're doing or saying, then you do what? You avoid that. But to call him someone who's ignorant, he doesn't know, he's evil, he's this and he's that, I don't think that you're in a position to say that about Muhammad bin Hadi. If you're a scholar, I don't think you can say that about him because I think you've done the same thing to people. If you're a student of knowledge, I don't think you have the ability to disregard the teacher who visited you and came to you and taught you. And if you're a layman person, then of course. And how do you go from being at the top to being nothing? Just yesterday, people were being tested with Muhammad bin Hadi. And I'm going to tell you a story to prove everything that I'm saying. One day I was in Medina, and I think it was maybe my second year of the master's program. Wallahu alam. So it was a part-time job that I had teaching at a school for English. So it was a good job, it was a good opportunity. I could make some money on the side. I had a little bit of free time. I had family there, whatever the case may be. It's not like you're going to school every day, you're not having formal classes. You're a researcher now. So a brother from the UK came. He was a Pakistani brother, or as they say, an Asian brother. He came from the UK. Assalamu alaikum. All right, you okay? Yeah, all right, good. Right, my name is such and such. Play it. So he said, oh, you're in the College of Hadith? I said, yeah. He said, well, what year are you in? I said, I graduated. He said, oh, mashallah. Mashallah, eh? I said, yeah, I'm in the master's program. He said, oh, okay. He says, do you know Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi? Has he taught you, yeah? I said, yeah. He said, oh, okay, alhamdulillah. And that was the end of the conversation. Meaning, if I was in the College of Hadith and I didn't know Muhammad bin Hadi and he never taught me, he would do what? He would shun me. And we're in a school for teaching al-lugha al-injliziyya. Not hadith, not Arabic, English, a place of business. And he's testing me because of what? Muhammad bin Hadi. And now Muhammad bin Hadi is what? Ash-shaytan al-rajim. How does it turn that fast? How does it flip so fast? And how does your principle go from solid gold to wax now? How does it melt? Which proves that the principle is made up and is flawed and faulty from day one to test people because of what? Men that are alive. The Hanafis are muqallidun. The Jamaat al-Tabligh, they're blind followers, they're grave worshippers. But we, no, we follow ittiba', we follow the texts. That's not true. You test people with men, and what happens when that man does what? Is a deviant. So everything that you were saying years ago, Muhammad bin Hadi refuted them, Muhammad bin Hadi said it about him, now where does that all go? So this goes to show you how ugly things are. And the last thing I'll say is, if you can't see what's going on, and you can't see what's happening and what has happened, you can't see the games that are being played and the lies that are being given to you, then you are utterly blind. You're deaf, dumb, and blind if you can't see by now what is happening. And from that is what's going on with what? Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi and many others who came before him and many others who were what? Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. And Allah surely knows best. May Allah rectify the affairs of all of the scholars of Islam. And rectify the affairs of all of the mashayikh, Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi or anyone else. Wallahu alam.
I came from Mississauga, Canada. Is prostrating after the verses of prostration mandatory? Can a woman do it without full hijab on? Can you make it up later if you read these verses on the public transportation?
Question regarding making sujood tilawa, prostrating for the specific verses in the Quran that tell us to do so. Is it obligatory? Can a woman do it without full hijab on? Can you make it up later if you're on the bus or the train, etc.? As far as it being obligatory or not, then the ulama of Islam, they differ. Some of them say that it is only recommended. It's a virtue. And others, they say that it is necessary and it is mandatory. They have their proofs and their evidences to support that. That's an issue of khilaf among the fuqaha of al-Islam. The best thing to do is to do it if you can. And if you don't do it, many of the ulama, if not most of the ulama, hold the view that it's not what? Mandatory. Wallahu alam. As far as do you have to have full hijab doing it? Not necessarily. It's not salah. It's not prayer. You don't necessarily have to have wudu for it according to that view. Whereas the mushrikun, they made sujood. Some of them put up dirt on their heads. They were too old to get on the ground. So it's not full prayer. It is not salah in which you need wudu and qibla, so on and so forth. Best to have wudu, of course. Best to be covered, yes. Best to face the qibla? Nah, but it's not necessarily what? Mandatory. As far as if you're on the train and you come across an ayah and which you can't make sujood, maybe make sujood on the train. Make sujood like you're sitting down and playing, if you want to do that. And if not, then wait until you're in a place in which you can do it. Wallahu alam.
IR from Detroit, Michigan. Can you make full submerged ghusl in the shower?
Questions from Michigan. Can you make a full ghusl in the shower? Yes, you can. I don't know what you mean by submerged. Al-Muhim, if you get in the shower and you have the proper niyyah that I'm making ghusl of janaba or menses or nifas, postpartum bleeding, you make your intention. Whether you say Bismillah or not, the ulama differ on that, saying Bismillah before ghusl and wudu. Al-Muhim, you make your niyyah in your heart. And you wash and wipe your whole entire body. And you put the water in your mouth and your nose. The ulama as well differ on that as well. All right? What they agree upon is the entire body, what? As the asl. Some say the mouth and the nose, etc. Like wudu, etc. Al-Muhim, you get in the shower, keep things simple. Make the niyyah in your heart. You watch your whole entire body from top to toe, and you put the water in your mouth and your nose, khalas, your ghusl is done. Or whether you make the sunnah ghusl, in which you start here 3 times, al-muhim, either of the 2 ways, you can make a ghusl in the what? Shower. Wallahu alam.
HA from London, UK. How is a sister meant to find a spouse if they stay at home?
Questions from the UK. How is a sister, how can she find a spouse if she has to stay home? Like we mentioned before, with regards to the modern world today, and this perhaps to be the last question that we'll take today, is that we have to understand something, guys. And that is the rulings of Islam are of 2 types. The first type are the rulings which are based off of direct text. Direct text. Clear text. And even in that issue, there are different understandings of those texts, of those hadiths. And then there are other issues which are based off of ijtihad. And it's oftentimes, as we've mentioned before, ijtihad is influenced by culture. We said this. Ijtihad is influenced by what? By culture. There's no doubt about that. Ijtihad can be affected by race. Therefore, fatwa of some ulama who tried their best based off of race, based off of the cultural norm. Things are not like how they are now back then in Medina. Imam Malik said this woman needs a wali, and another type of woman what? Doesn't need a wali. It's a reality. Race is a major part of life. Status is a major part of what? Of life. Class, all right? Caste system, all right? So the bottom line is there are certain rulings which are only based off of ijtihad, and there are different influences on that what? Ijtihad. So, if there is a rule that's based off of the direct Quran and Sunnah with regards to a woman doing something to get married, can and cannot, then the same applies in 2019. And if that ruling is not based off of the direct text, but it's a bit of ijtihad and culture and this and that, in 2019, then we say there's what? Flexibility. And the last thing I want to say is that many of the old traditional rulings and ways which were not based off of direct text have become obsolete. And many of those old ways have failed. And from that is people getting married. You can't get married unless you do this. Your mother has to approve first. The father, they have to go for a walk. They sit over tea and coffee. You ask the uncle first. That's not based off of what? Direct text of Kitab and Sunnah. It's not based off of direct text. It's ijtihad and that's a bit of culture. And if it still works today, then alhamdulillah. And if it doesn't work, and there's so many Muslim youths who cannot get married, cannot find a successful marriage, then that stuff is now what? Obsolete. And something else needs to be done. If that's the internet, if that's the matrimony, if it's just say WhatsApp, or sister going to college and saying whatever that way is, then you have to do it because it isn't haram because of direct what? Text. It is not makruh because of what? Direct text. Everyone understand the principle? And it's applicable to getting married, a woman leaving her house, social media, placing her picture on the website, or other issues as well. Something which is clearly, directly extracted from the nusus. There is no 2019. It's the same ruling as it was back then. But that ruling was never ever based off of an authentic hadith. It was based off of a weak hadith. It was based off of a statement of someone. It was based off of some cultural norm. 2019, that's over 1,000 years ago. It's time to what? You gotta maneuver. It isn't usable anymore. And that's one of the reasons why so many Muslim youth can't get married. Is because their parents are still stuck in the past. And they're still stuck upon the incorrect understanding of Islam. They're not following the authentic teachings, nor they're following the modern day culture. They're stuck in no man's land. They're upon bid'ah and cultural Islam, and worldly, social issues, they're still in the 60s. They're still in the 50s. And who's going to suffer? They're what? Their children. And we've said this many times before. If a person wasn't following Islam, unfortunately, but at least they were up to speed with the modern world, you say at least they're getting something. Or someone is totally out-fashioned, totally outdated, but they're sticking to the what? The correct teaching of Islam. We say what? Alhamdulillah. How is the case when they're doing what? Neither this, what? Total loss. And that is the Muslim youth. The 27-year-olds, the 25-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds, the women that can't get married. She's 40 years old. She's never been with a man. 45-year-old. She's a virgin. Never had a husband. He's a grown man. He has a beard, hair under his underarms, which he's not shaving every 40 days. He's a grown man. He's not a little boy anymore, and he can't get married because the system has failed him. Because that system was not the mandatory system from the what? From the get-go. Everyone understand this? Wallahu a'lam. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi.